welcome to the Work Cultured podcast. Today I've got Vaughn Nelson, and Vaughn is currently the HR director at the DoubleTree by Hilton in Portland, Oregon. But as Vaughn and I have become connected on LinkedIn and seen you've had quite a, storied career and appears to be quite a storied life as well. Um, Looks like you have got a book that is on Amazon, and are you working on another book as well? Is that right?
I've got four books, and I'm working
Four
on two.
books.
Yeah, I got
Okay.
working on two more, and I'm getting my dissertation right now, so I'm near the ending of that. So
Okay.
all good.
I love that. Well, if you wouldn't mind, Vaughn, kind of give us, the kind of the elevator pitch on, your professional career up to this point and kind of, what the future looks like for you.
Well, I have lived this Forrest Gump life where I've kind of like found myself at different areas of running into different things, everything happening. Actually, I was born in South Mississippi and worked on a shrimp boat. So that's why I consider the Forrest Gump life. But I was lucky enough, real young, we moved to the Middle East and I lived there for about 10 years and just traveled the world, got to see a lot of cool stuff. And that's where I was finding myself in situations and being in life that it really reflected who I was and as a person, as a leader, as a dad, as a granddad. So I just followed my path of like always learning, trying to figure out why people do the things they do. That's never ending for me.
Sure.
Um, and so that's got me into hospitality. And from that, I'm completing my PhD, getting closer to the end here. Within this year, I'll be finished. And like I said, written
And
a couple books and about my way and
what's your
journey.
PhD on?
It's psychology, structural, organizational. So it's basically like an HR person
Okay.
for a large company organization. Kind of my thing is more about behaviorism.
Sure.
So I can like sit, do an interview, and figure out where you'd be the best candidate, and just noticing behaviors, predicting behaviors of how people would act in the job place. So
All right. That's fascinating. So, and you said you have two books coming up. Can you share what those two are going to be about?
well, I've got a couple here. I've got hospitality
Okay.
playbook. It's actually from when I was a soccer player overseas, a kid playing soccer. I got to play with the Saudi national team and as a real young and just kind of learning um, the soccer, and I've applied it to management and how being selecting the best candidates on the field. Um,
Okay.
I've got the Narrows. I love adventures and hiking. We actually hiked down the Narrows from top down, and it's about self leadership. And so that's the one I'm pushing. My next books, they're in the work. I'm going to be doing Mount Fuji hike
Okay.
in July, and that is going to be about leading and going through trials and tribulations and how do you uh, get to the summit, and yourself and your life. Um,
Have you done Fuji yet?
no, that's coming up.
Okay. Okay.
I've done the Grand Canyon rim to rim, and then
Okay.
I've actually written a book. It's a rim to rim. It's kind of like a Facebook murder group book. That's a
Okay.
kind of a mystery type thing. Doing the rim to rim, the Grand Canyon. So I've done a lot of adventures like this, and it's kind of how I mold my life and do things with. So,
Yeah, I love it. My girlfriend did Fuji, and she
okay.
actually broke her ankle like 2 months before, and still managed to do
Yeah,
it. She said it was probably the single most difficult thing she's ever done. So, yeah,
yeah,
definitely look forward to hearing, your experiences on
yeah.
that. That's
Well, great.
exciting stuff.
Well,
And you're doing that
I don't
in
know
the
if I'll
summer?
share that with my wife because she
Yeah.
actually broke her ankle, and she's going to
Oh,
do this
really?
hike with me, and I don't want her to be freaked out that she might break it again on this hike. So I'll keep that on the down low with her.
Well, the beautiful thing was she said, I was already in the middle of this and knew that I mean, I'm going with a group of friends. There's no way I'm going to give up on this thing. And so the motivation that this was coming kind of kept her pushing and
Yeah,
pushing and then, it's one of those things where she's like I literally feel like my body got stronger. My ankle got stronger. Even though, yes, it was difficult, she was like, yeah, I was able to make it and hung in there with everyone. I didn't hold anyone back. And so,
Well,
yeah,
that's the essence of what of my books are about and what I write
yeah,
about right there in itself. So,
yeah, I love it. So I want to start out with the question that we like to ask everyone at the beginning of the podcast. And you've got a lot of history to draw from, so take an extra moment if you need. But what is a mistake that you have made in leadership throughout your career that you'll never forget? And you're welcome to share more than one if they pop into your mind, of course.
oh, one of the things is just not being able to see down the road and not preparing yourself as future comes up. Being in HR, um, you kind of like you kind of can see things before they happen normally. But obviously, with the big event that took place with COVID-19, I mean, how do you prepare for something like that? And
Yeah,
in HR, I mean, I sat and I had to talk to over 255 people and let them know, hey, I've got to let you go.
wow.
And how do you prepare for conversations like that? And people don't understand. Um, so that was something that hit me, and I didn't know what to do. So moving forward, I said, hey, everything's on the table. What could take place? What could happen? Just prepare yourself. It's like that old story about fishermen, and now you'll hear me say a lot of country boy stuff because I'm, from that country boy that, when you're not out fishing, you're preparing your nets. So that's a great lesson. You just got to prepare for these kind of things ahead of time. And I learned that valuable lesson during that time. So
Were you a Boy Scout growing up?
I wasn't a Boy Scout, but I always found myself being in situations where I need to become one. So you
Sure.
could literally put me out in the middle of nowhere and I'll figure myself to get out. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, Boy Scout motto of always be prepared.
yeah.
And absolutely, like, I mean, I've honestly never heard that fisherman story. But yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense that either you're out fishing or you're preparing to go out fishing
Yep. That's
and
right.
being on top of that. So as you scan back, because I mean, even looking at your LinkedIn, you can see the variety, and I kind of read a little bit of one of your books that was available on Amazon, kind of the introduction and kind of some of your life story. Like when you think back to all of that and you think of how it directly translates to not only business but in the hospitality industry and creating that culture among your employees, like can you point to some specifics of like, oh yeah, this is what really
Mhm.
kind of drove it home for me, because I know that that's a thing that you've built an entire career on, and obviously the books that you've written as well. So can you point to some specific moments?
Yeah, sorry. I tell my kids about my stories all the time growing up, and they're like, "Oh, Dad, that's not true. We don't believe it." That's I mean, and I'm like, "Okay." But I remember vividly as a kid, and I went to an Arab dinner, and they were serving. I mean, we had fish eyes, they had locust out there, and at an Arab dinner, you have to eat everything. You can't just push it off. I don't like that. I'm a kid. I'm 13 years old. I'm like, God, I can't do this. But I did. And my dad turned to me and said, "You have to try everything. We can't insult them."
Yeah.
So one of the the guys, the Arab guys, they came over and they said, "Hey, look, you don't have to. We do this." Um, and he said something important about hospitality, and he said it's not what you do for someone, it's how you make them feel. And if you don't like it, if you don't like an item, it's okay. I want you to feel happy. So that whole thing of it's about how you make someone feel. I've kind of put into my business aspect of being a leader for others, being a leader for guests that come in the door. Um, and I think that's an integral part of hospitality that we would need, that I'd like passing on to future leaders and things like that.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I've not traveled. I've definitely never been in that sort of a situation, but I do remember early in my career working in churches, like we talked about in Houghton, Louisiana. And at that time, I was a very picky eater. And I remember one time, my pastor sharing a story that Paul shared of like, look, when you go into someone's home, you better eat every single thing that is on that plate because they have gone out of their way to provide this meal, and you better be respectful. And yeah, that's a serious thing, for sure. And I am glad I learned that early in my career because
yeah,
it definitely made me become. And now I eat almost anything.
yeah.
But at the time, I was very very picky eater.
Oh, yeah.
So, as you think about like what's next for you, right? You've got the completion of your doctorate coming up soon. Like what's on the horizon for you personally and professionally for the rest of 2025 and beyond?
That's the great question. I'm in that soul searching. I've got a great job. I work for Hilton. It's a great company, great job, everything. But when I complete all this, what I'm gonna do? And we talked about hiking to Mount Fuji, and
Hmm.
I'm probably just gonna sit at that summit because that's about the time I'll complete all this and go, what's my next steps? Where am I
Oh,
going
really?
next? So I'm doing a lot of deep dive, a lot of researching. I'm out there on LinkedIn, just kind of seeing what's out there. I don't really know, what it is. It's about the experiences and enjoying. If it's something I don't want to do, I don't do it. I don't do things because I have to do it. I do things because I want to.
Sure.
Um, so I'm not really sure just yet,
Okay.
so
All right. So, shifting a little bit, but kind of coming back to the focus of the company culture there. Because if I understand right, your focus is just that one specific DoubleTree in Portland, yes?
yeah, I do. As far as other hotels, I have a close you- um knit kind of group that we contact and we speak to, and I have a lot of people asking about things. And I help them out. But yes, I'm mostly focused here at this hotel.
Okay. So if now, and I'm not going to do this, don't worry, but if we were to reach out directly to the people that are working there that are under your leadership, and we asked about what is the feel, what is the vibe, what is the company culture that you have created in the last year and a half, what would you imagine some of the responses might be?
Well, it is HR. So I would say, and of course, if you want to reach out, you can. But I would say it depends on who it is. I grew up in a tough situation, seeing things that are either this way or not, and there's not really a balance. So, and then in growing up in sports too, it's like it's performance, it's what you could do next, and things like that. So there are people on my team that I push and push and push. Um, and if you were to ask him, does he really care? Yes. I push you because I care. Um, I push you because I want you to grow. I want you to. So there are some that go, Vaughn's tough. He is like on point. He won't stop. And there's some that oh my God, Vaughn will do anything, and I will if I got your buy-in and you're gonna follow me. And that's what leadership is having followers. You're gonna follow me. I'm gonna go out of my way to figure out how I can help you.
Sure.
So I mean, you can call any of them. I'm tough, but I'm fair and I'm there for you. So
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that, especially early in my career, working for leaders. I mean, I can think of two right now where, yeah, they were very tough and they were very hardworking. But I also knew that they were there for me. One of them I'm still close with
Oh
to
yeah.
this day.
Yeah.
And I got divorced 12 years ago, and I remember I was working for him at that time, and he called me in his office and he closed the blinds. And I'm not that big. I'm 5'10", but he's probably 6'4". He was a football player, and he just said, "Hey, I could just tell that you just needed a big brother hug." And he
Yeah.
literally just gave me a hug, and I just sat there and cried for a few minutes, and then we talked for half an hour and
Yeah.
went back to work. And but yeah, it's nice to have that feeling that the person that is leading is both of those. And I no no no
Oh, I was going to say, and another great lesson I learned is before we had to leave Saudi, my parents stayed there, and because of my school stopped in ninth grade, I had to come back to States or go to
okay.
boarding school. But I had a great teacher. He said, you have to create a word about you, what you stand for, what you believe in. And a lot of that lessons aren't taught to kids nowadays. So I created something called SOUL. It's kind of an acronym. First is strong integrity, and I'm never going to lie to you, ever. Second is overwhelming passion. What I do, I put passion into it. Whether it's writing books or hiking and doing whatever, I put passion in it. The U is understanding yourself, knowing that I don't know everything, but constantly looking to kind of learn. That's why I've been in school for so long. And then the L is lasting commitment. I don't give up and I don't quit. I keep going, keep at it, keep focused, kind of like you were talking about your wife, and it's just that's just something that's inside of me. And I've taken that from the time I was 14 years old up into now, and I can still recite everything. So if you ask me a question, put me in a situation, I just go back to those four letters. And
And
that's
you
what
came
I've
up
done.
with that when you were 14.
Yeah, we all had to.
Wow.
So there's a group of us who grew up over there, and we all have our own ones that we talk about and do. So it's pretty
Okay.
cool. And we still
And
communicate back and forth.
and how old are you now, Vaughn?
Oh, really? I'm allowed to say this on here? I'm about to turn 56. So
Okay, okay. All right. Wow, yeah. That is 14 to 56. Goodness. Yeah.
that just
I
that
don't
has navigated me all the way through tough times, tough situations. How do I get through life? And that was one of my biggest lessons I learned as a kid. So
yeah. And that's something definitely to be able to continually point back to.
mhm.
Wow. So, as you know, scan back, like you said, you're a lifelong learner. I mean, I noticed that definitely looking on
Oh, yeah.
LinkedIn. Um, how many degrees do you have total?
Well, let's see. I don't know if it's because I'm afraid to pay back student loans or what it is, but I've actually been in college. I might take a semester off since what, 1987. Um, I've got a couple of almost finished degrees, and then I got a degree in bachelor's from Tarleton State, which is not far from Austin, and then in
Yeah.
my LSU in Shreveport, I got my MBA from. But I've once wanted to be a weatherman. I always wanted to be up on the weather and point that out. I once wanted to be a doctor, a psychiatrist. There's just all over the place. I couldn't figure it out. But I finally am finishing up pretty soon. So
I love it. Yeah, I love the constant pursuit, and I don't know many people that don't have some sort of pivot in their career, or multiple pivots, but to be able to not only take those pivots, but still learning and pushing and educating yourself along the way is,
yeah,
I mean, it's
I've
something that
had
I'm even jealous of like, man, I need to be more like Vaughn. I love it.
I've had many a teachers where I'm like 10, 20 years older and
Oh,
they're trying to
sure.
tell me about things. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. That doesn't sound right. Hold up. So
Yeah, that is that's definitely a thing that I'm starting to
yeah,
encounter now more that I'm, approaching my mid 40s.
yeah.
It takes quite a bit of, I feel like, um, humility, I
Oh yeah.
would say, and being able to kind of put your ego at the door.
That's the understanding that you just constantly have to look back and just take feedback. I mean,
Yeah.
so.
So, I mean, I know we kind of talked about you personally, but as you think of, the rest of this year, for like, does like Hilton as a whole, does DoubleTree, do they give y'all specific goals? Like, what does the rest of the year look like for y'all, and kind of achieving and attaining, you know, success on certain levels within the organization?
Well, Hilton's a great company, and everybody's got certain goals depending what your department is. And for us, it's turnover, it's the culture piece of our engagement scores, and it's kind of our heartbeat of that. And so we all have parameters that we have to stay within. Um, I've taken, and how I look in the HR world in the hospitality is, I look at it as like a college football program. And
Okay.
if I hire someone, I've got you 2 to 4 years. Um, and what I think about is, what am I going to do after 4 years for this person? How am I going to be still helping this person grow? Do I want you to be in the same role? No, I don't. I want you to advance. So it's my job to kind of move people along. So if I do have turnover, it's because someone has been with us forever and now they're advancing out of the role of where they want to go. So that's a measurement tool that kind of Hilton also puts in, is, are you growing your people within? Are you helping them? Um, or does everybody engage, want to be there? How do you make it fun? That's the passion part, overwhelming passion, where you're putting the stuff in the hotel. How do you feel if you're coming into the hotel? So, and those are pretty big things with Hilton. So,
And it's not like y'all are a retail store, that you're open 5 days a week for 8 hours a day, right? I
no,
mean, y'all never close.
no, no.
So how do y'all treat that, knowing that around the clock, every single person at every single shift is, essentially required to provide that same high level of service?
Well, unfortunately for me in the HR is, I'm always on the job, and of course my wife doesn't like that. But
Yeah, I would imagine.
whether I'm on vacation, I mean, there's been times I've been hiking way off in Arizona somewhere, and I get a message, "Hey, I need to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay, I can't respond to you now.
Yeah,
I'll be back here or whatever." But being in HR, it's really important that we're there for them. And I would suggest to any other future HR people that you make yourself available all the time. And HR is not a desk job. It's not sitting in the office, sitting behind the thing. It's out there being here. Another great lesson I learned as a kid growing up is, you've got to be out involved to know what's going on, to see what's happening. And as an HR person, that's how I'm able to figure things out before they happen. If I hear, everything's a teachable moment. Every little thing, that's a great lesson in sports too. Every moment is teachable. And as a great coach, you have to look at that to help them figure it out. So,
sure. So early in my career, I feel like HR was, I mean, it was almost like a career counselor, a emotional support friend, someone that I could vent to sometimes. Uh, like you said, someone that was more like a coach. Like some days they were a motivational speaker. Some days I felt like they were, uh, helping me with my, planning my finances.
mhm.
And now in a lot of the groups that I'm on, LinkedIn and people that I'm connected with, there's at least the feeling among a lot of people that there's been this shift that, now HR is just, they're out to protect the company and the organization, and this personal connection with the employees, the ones that are, in the trenches, has kind of gone away. But it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like that's like that for you. I mean, how have you been
Well,
able to maintain that on both sides?
it is a real thing. And as AI is coming involved into it, it is a real thing. And a lot of new HR people don't have a voice. They're coming into the job not a voice. They're just kind of following, who do I take care of? Do I take care of the team members, or I take care of the management? And I've actually approached it different ways to try to figure out who I can help support the most and where would impact the hotel the best. Um, if you were to go to my GM and ask them the same kind of questions, he'd say, "Oh, Vaughn is pretty stuff. He's on point. He didn't give me a break."
Yeah.
If you go to them team members, "Oh, Vaughn, it's the same. I speak the same. It all aligns with my soul, my four things."
Hmm.
And I chose this company to work for because I felt safe, because I knew that I could be who I was and what I wanted to do. And I lined it up that way. Um, but yeah, if you go on LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of those back and forth, and HR just this or that. And I'm like, well, you got the wrong company you're working for. And if I was to speak to any HR people out there, find your voice, go where you feel that you wanting to take care of people and help people, the basic thing. Don't just go work a job just to collect a paycheck. Go where you enjoy to be there and you can be true to who you are. So
I love that. And on that note, I mean, imagine if someone were watching this episode and they thought, and they're in that mindset of like, man, I'm interested. I want to be in HR. I mean, what would you tell someone that's just starting out how to get into that space and how to, start their career in HR?
I would ask why, the first question. Why do you want to do it? I mean, I I used to keep a David Letterman's top 20 things, and one of them was the top 20 things people call out on. And so I think I've seen it. It's just kind of seen everything. I mean, someone coming in, I would say you need to define who you are, and define why you want to do this journey. What is your purpose? What is your goals? What do you want to get out of it? A lot of people start something and they don't know what they want to get out of it. Um, but you just need to be strong to who you are and just say no. Don't give in, because your integrity, and that's why I say integrity is very important. You're constantly being pushed and pulled about what's the right thing to do. And the right thing to do is just to take care of people. Okay, whether they believe in how you're taking care of them or not, um, but it's to take care of them.
I
So.
love it. So I guess my question, just hearing you just then, and this is not a trick question, I'm just curiosity. Obviously, I can go into a dictionary. I have my own definition, but when you use the word integrity, how would you specifically define integrity the way that you're using it?
Simply doing the right thing when no one's looking. Um, but in a bigger scheme of it, I think it's having a personal integrity that lines up with what my faith and belief in with God and everything else. Um, and I've done that. But just doing the right thing when it's just so tough, so hard, that you're going to stick to that, lasting commitment in doing the right thing. I think that defines, because everybody has that level of integrity of what is their jump off piece, where
Sure.
they just, and I think for me, I don't think I have a jump off piece. I just keep going. Um, you know, um,
I love it.
well, so
So Vaughn, as we're
well, I was going to say, at the end of the day, is how do you feel when you're alone? What do you say to yourself? I did this. I just feel horrible. I mean, what do you say to yourself? So that's kind of the parameters that you put on yourself for that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, there have been many times in my career that I've had this moment and I've had to say, I've got to sleep tonight. I've got to be able to look myself in the mirror. I just know that if I did this thing, I wouldn't be able to do that.
So
And
I've got here's a story real quick. I know we're finishing up. So when Hurricane Katrina hit, I was running a restaurant, and I went to go check on the restaurant after the thing, and there was just people walking around, and I was like, the food's gone. I can't, I mean, the freezer's broke. I'm going to lose all this food. I just started cooking. Then the Red Cross came by. I had lines of people I'm cooking all this food for and taking care of. And I said, hey, What if we paid you to take care of, make sandwiches? Can you make this operational? I'll go, sure. So the Red Cross started paying us, and I'm sending 5,000 meals to one area, 7,000 meals to another. And then after, 2 months, they came to me and goes, here's a check from the Red Cross to pay for all the meals we've done. I'm like, okay. Um, it was $999,999.99. They couldn't write it for a million. And they wrote it in my name. In my
Goodness.
name. At that moment, I looked at it, I was like, you know what? I could actually just deposit this check and just go on my way, or I could do the right thing. So I contacted the company, let them know, here's what we're doing. Here's a check. I had to write it over, deposit it, write it over, and put it in the right account. But it's things like and no one would have known. I mean, during the Red Cross time, no one would know. That no one didn't know because they had already paid for other stuff. The company already assumed that was just an extra check
Yeah.
for services and stuff that I was doing that no one else knew about. I don't know. It's that kind of tough things you just, when you find yourself in that moment of doing the right thing, and that, for people, it could be something small. Doesn't have
Yeah,
to
and
be
that's not a
900.
small amount to
No, no, no.
that's like goodness gracious.
Yep. Yep.
So Vaughn, as we wrap up, are there can you think of any maybe final words of wisdom, any final nuggets that you might like to share?
I can just, final thing is just life is hard. Life is difficult, and things get thrown at you right and left, and you don't prepare for it. You don't even know how to prepare for it. But there's a great thing in football and sports is to keep yourself centered and grounded. And when you're ready to take a hit, you can deliver a hit. And I think for each of us, we need to kind of define who we are and what we want out of life and what we want to get out of our lives and be true to that. And that's a great lesson. So anybody who's coming to HR, anybody who's coming to hospitality, just really look inside yourself and say, what do I want to do? And, life's too short. I want to enjoy it. I want to, I want to be true, and I want to live to principles and values. So that's the best advice I can give someone.
I love it. Thanks for sharing. Now, I always say this is one of my favorite parts, but I'm going to do a little, just a brief this or that, and you can, pick one of them, or sometimes people say, hey, neither one of those. So the first one is golf or tennis.
Oh, golf. I saw you
All
like
right.
golf. I like golf. I'm a golfer.
Yeah, I love it. Is there good golf up in Portland? Do you get out often?
Well, no, but in Sedona, I was in Sedona, Arizona, and there was some great golf courses
Oh,
around
yeah.
Arizona.
I
So
love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
All right. Now, are you a tea or coffee person?
Oh, I'd have to be coffee. That's
Yeah,
coffee.
there you go. Are you a daily coffee drinker? Got to have my morning
Yeah,
coffee.
I'm a
Yeah,
daily bad habit, but it's better than a lot of other habits I can gain. So,
it is better than a lot of others. Absolutely. Now, I think I know the question or the answer to this one, but it's on my list, so I'm still going to ask it. Mountains or beaches?
I think for me, beaches, I would have to go. I
Wow.
love the water.
Okay.
And I
See, I would
think,
have thought mountains.
well, I think this time in my life, I'm checking them out. But after I'm done with
Yeah.
all these mountains around here, I want to go back to the beach. So,
Yeah, I love it. Now this one, and this one could be a neither, but whiskey or beer.
oh, beer. I'm a beer guy.
Okay.
I mean,
And
you give me whiskey, and I'm like, "Oh, what the heck?" But beer guy, oh yeah,
y'all have quite the
oh
extensive
yeah. I
breweries
get
up there, yeah?
That's the only probably reason why I'm still here is having a good, nice beer after,
Yeah,
take a
I
good
love it.
hike.
So the last question would be, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, as a kid growing up, I was like, why are all these people going to bed so early at 7, 8 o'clock? So I am a morning person. I don't need an alarm clock. I just get up and move. But as
Yeah,
soon as it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I'm like, okay, it's time. Start
yeah.
preparing. So I'm a
I
morning.
love it. I love it. Well, Vaughn, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. I really do appreciate the conversation and learning more about you, not only just your personal life, but your career and experiences. We look forward to seeing those new books come out.
Sure.
And uh, at this point, signing off with the Work Culture Podcast.